Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another recording of Hearthstone. Today is Friday, January 25th. We're starting really late. Insomnia, I was awake at 6 in the morning recording Grow Up, the sequel to Grow Home, and then just fell asleep. And I may have even woken up around 2 o'clock, but I just was not feeling like awake or particularly well. And so I think I may have rolled over and gone back to sleep. And that's how you end up starting streaming at... This is odd. It says it's 8:21 on my phone, but it says it's 7:22 on the game. One of my two auto-synced clocks is off. Interesting. Anyways, we're on the Americans account. We need to play Shaman class cards. We got the Tavern Brawl done, right? Yes, thanks goodness. So let's just do this Shaman and use the hero ability a bunch while we're at it. And might as well play ranked while we're at it too. I suppose there's slight good news that there wasn't a ton of news out anyways, so this will try to, like I say this every single stream, it's becoming a slogan. This will probably not be that long of a stream anyways. Of course, the theory here would be that I'd want to wrap up around 10 or 11, fall asleep, wake up at 8 or 9, 10 in the morning tomorrow, and get back to recording Grow Up. But of course it never really works that way, does it? As for Grow Up, it's pretty good, a lot better than Air Memories of Old. I really don't have a great way to even compare it to Air Memories of Old, because Air Memories of Old was such a incredibly unfinished game, where Grow Up is a finished product. It is really just kind of a copy-paste evolution of Grow Home, and the fact that it came out a year after Grow Home is problematic, and it certainly explains why they didn't make a third in the series, because they didn't really change anything at all. There's totally concepts that could have been played with. You could have been growing downward with the star plants, you could have had the dig, you could have I mean, not straight up make it a Minecraft game or anything to dig downward, but you could have changed the way the plants and the world looked significantly, because it is just low polygon Unity assets. You could have given the main character Bud a new skin to change it there. One thing that's particularly bad about it is the fact that you're constantly getting these messages from the pod assistance map character, even after you've done the things that the message is talking about. The worst example I've seen so far is that it's telling me to find the like first ability, I believe, that you would find in the game. I found it hours and hours ago, and yet it comes back up. What's kind of funny is you could have pretty easily you could have had the messages that popped up in the first game, just copy and pasted that into the second game, or just do a quick filter, because the computer, the AI known as Mom in Grow Home, she's broken at a certain point, but I'm past that point. I put her back together. She could be communicating and talking to me this whole time, and that's just not happening. Or you could just do what a basic game would do, which is to take out those messages after they've been repeated a certain number of times. The game also suffers from pop-in, which I don't really appreciate. I have 10 of 150 crystals left to find, and I have like 15 of 40 challenges left to do, and some of these challenges are super challenging, so yeah, I feel like I'm gonna run into issues. I've looked at all the achievements. They seem somewhat doable, but it will take some work. They added a ball mode, kind of like Metroid, where you morph into a ball, and super speed was an upgrade to that. I'm wondering if some of the challenges, now that I've seen one achievement in particular, I'm wondering if some of the challenges are directly built around using ball mode and super speed mode. Got to just hit everything, I guess. There. But yeah, another day and I'll be done with Grow Up, and I'll schedule that, and then I'll move on to the next game, which could be just about anything. I'm trying to be a little bit more freeform about it. I know maybe 2 years ago I was trying to be more organized and schedule and think about what I was going to record and play, but honestly that's not a realistic way to decide how you play a game. Nobody in the real world makes a schedule. That's too anal retentive, if that's the right phrase, to schedule out what games you're gonna play. That's something a video game critic would do and have their boss tell them what to do, and even then I don't want to see that list. I want to I have plenty of games. I want to just see where the flow takes me, and there's little things that I know I still want to do. I want to hop into Assassin's Creed 3 and play that and make sure that at least one Assassin's Creed game gets done this year. I still have ambition to play the game Zombie, where I've been talking about playing that for a long time. Let's see. And the 2 time slots, I'm trying to just build that up and fill those up until we get to Halloween and Halloween month, and then I am gonna have to make a decision on Halloween month, I suppose, on how all of that's gonna work. Like, because it's possible I only play 2 scary Halloween games, but it's not likely. I think by October I do want to get back to having 3 or 4 time slots, at least for that 1 month of video games, and
Handle it.
I suppose it really wouldn't be too much of an issue to stretch out Halloween month all the way to Christmas. But that would be kind of weird, certainly. Yeah, that would be really weird if I'm doing 30-minute episodes of horror games. Anyways, let's start covering the news, because I'm mostly just trying to think and not getting anywhere with it. We've got a game on Steam called Soundslide, which looks like you're following past as music games, a rhythm racer game. It's already rated pretty positively. Now, personally, I don't think I'm that tone deaf that I couldn't play a game like this, depending on how difficult it gets. Maybe it is a little too fast. So it doesn't look terrible. I'll put this on the follow list. I guess I'm gonna be a little generous. It's a free-to-play game though, so I'm not gonna put it on the follow list. If you want to try out Sound Slide, it's there. People seem to like it fine. It really is just taking skybox surrounding areas, probably Unity assets to put in the outer areas so you have something to look at while you're flying, but that's kind of it. There we go.
Well played.
Gamatsi has an article. Onigiri, O-N-I-G-I-R-I, is coming to the Switch January 31st and Steam in February. Cross-platform between the Switch and Steam. It's a Japanese-style MMORPG. Onigiri is currently only available for the PS4, Xbox One, and Vita, Japan only, for the Vita, and PC via client download. So I've maybe barely heard of Onigiri, but I don't. Doesn't immediately strike me as something I would recognize. And it's an MMORPG, so that doesn't really mean anything to me. It's like, that's certainly not a game I'll want to play.
Mushroom power!
Next, we have a game on Steam called Little Imps, a dungeon builder, which feels like it's trying to go for something like Dungeon Keeper in its visuality, but in all actuality, it doesn't look particularly too good. There's already at least 2 pretty good Dungeon Keeper clones on Steam that I'm finding between, and this feels closer to something that wouldn't even make it to the 3rd slot. But generosity, I guess. We'll put it in the follow list for it's $11.99 right now in early access, and we'll see if perhaps by the time it's out of early access it's got something. This fight mechanic in particular seems wrong for that style of game. Let's keep on playing. Let's see. GameIndustry.biz has an article. Epic Games acquires Agog Labs. Skookum script developers will cease work on the Unreal Engine 4 plugin to work on exciting new projects with Epic. I don't know what Skookum script was, though. It's S-K-O-O-K-U-M. Let's see. This is the second recent acquisition by Epic Games. Who announced yesterday they bought the Serbian-based graphics firm 3 Lateral. Agog Labs was awarded the Unreal Developer Grant in 2015 and went to develop Skookum Script, a scripting solution and command console for creating AI gameplay and high-level stage direction. So, Epic Games is not Unreal, is it? Isn't it Epic Games Unity? Or maybe no. Epic Games is Unreal. I'm fairly certain. Man, it's hard to keep them together. Keep the two together. One of them needs to change their name so that they're not both U names.
Job's done.
Let's see. Apparently, Skookum Script will remain available as a community-supported plugin for the Unreal Engine 4.
Behold the might of Stormwind.
Interesting. So really all this boils down to, though, is I think a pretty obvious case that Epic got really lucky with Fortnite, and they're using that money and that luck to hire in people that they think can bring more talent to their website, to their company, which is, I think, exactly what they needed, because now that they have Fortnite, they need to get somebody probably to get back to making other games, or working on remaking some of their older games, because they abandoned that. Although who cares really about their older games, but new games, certainly new games, different genres, try to make Epic a real powerhouse and not just like Bluehole, the creators of PUBG. But I mean, nobody really expects Bluehole to do anything else. Like, we don't even really at this point expect Bluehole to make PUBG a finished product that's super successful. And that's kind of weird, because I would say there's more pressure on Valve to make games right now than there is to make Bluehole, and Valve really hasn't made a good game in a long time. Moving on, Gamatsu has an article, Nico Para Volume 2 for the PS4 and Switch launches February 14th. Nico Para is cat girls, anime cat girls in maid outfits, visual novel. It's already on Steam. Let's see. So let's click on its Steam page. Yeah, Nico Para is tagged with sexual content and visual novel. It's 98% positive in the last 30 days and 97% positive over its lifetime, and it came out February 19th, 2016, I believe. So yeah, take that for what that is. Let me see if there's anything that shows up on the screenshots that's too offensive before we do a web peek here. So here is Nico Para Volume 2. This is what it looks like. Although this intro is more 3D than I think you'd actually get actually in the game. There's quite a lot of polish going on here. So yeah, just that's the basic of it. Nico Para Volume 2 is $9.99 as a complete bundle for Volume 1, Volume 0, Volume 2, and Volume 3, which Volume 3 came out May 26, 2017, so you can have apparently the complete bundle, although I wouldn't be surprised if a Volume 4 did come out. It seems like it's pretty successful for $30. It is fully voiced in Japanese, but sadly not in English. As for me, I guess I just need to make sure this is on the wish list. I mean, clearly this is very, very popular, and that gives it relevancy.
The calm before the storm.
Moving on. Next we have a game on Steam called The Quest for the Golden Duck, which looks like it's a Pac-Man clone, but I wouldn't immediately reject a game just because it's a Pac-Man clone. Generally speaking, we we run into Arkanoid clones. It's 1 to 4 players co-op. Is there any single player? It says there is. Doesn't seem like it's really doing anything, and this is generally why we don't see Pac-Man clones, is because while there were several hundreds that probably were released right as PC gaming was brand new, by modern standards, nothing new could be possibly done with it. Let's just attack and see what happens.
Take shelter.
Yeah, so quest for the golden duck is discounted to $7.99. That's not worth it. Honestly, it would be funny in like an RPG or something if you had a Pac-Man minigame once or twice. I don't think you can make a full like hacking minigame out of it or anything like that, but that's about as far as I think you could take that concept. Go ahead and take the victory. Even though that wasn't really what we were going for, I don't want to fall too far below in the ranking. Next we have a game on Steam called Fabulous Angela's True Colors. This Angela series, I think I've heard about it. It's very much... seems like it's trying to focus on little girls, and these are probably just cell phone port games. It's the exact same style of game though, it's just... it's the cooking games where people come to the counter and they want something and then you have to deliver it. They've just changed it from cooking to fashion this time. Honestly, not really great games. And frankly, if you were going to make a fashion game, I think you could probably get a decent amount of really wild fashion going on from just pre-buying Unity assets, and it would look something closer to Final Fantasy game than it would look like a flat 2D just cell phone game. And you know, if you're gonna get into fashion, really it's kind of hard, because a lot of fashion is about just, well, frankly, there really is no industry for fashion. It's like 20 people in the entire world are successful at making it their job, and then everybody else at best is some seamstress or sewing their own clothes or something like that. You can get into sewing, or you could get into color matching, and I could see that general idea. What are colors that work well with each other. But yeah, also I don't think that there's actually too much of an audience here. It really just feels like it's a case of people who really don't know what little girls want these days. But I don't know. There probably are some little girls and some little boys that do want to play things like Fabulous Angela's True Colors. I just don't think it's very big, because I think most people would be out playing Fortnite, and in Fortnite you can get different skins, and so you can satisfy that fashion twitch that way just as easily as any other. Let's see. Let's do that. And that. And that. Anyways, that Fabulous Angela's True Colors is $9.74 discounted. And of course I'm not going to put it on my follow list, because honestly I wouldn't even be the right person to try and cover that game.
Job's done.
Let's see. Gematsu has an article, Left Alive, quote, live show volume 1 broadcast set for January 31st. Story and gameplay introduction with the director. We haven't really heard anything about Left Alive yet. It's from Square Enix. I'm looking at a trailer. It looks like it's probably a mech game of some sort, but that's pretty much all I can say. It says it's a shooter. Square Enix says it's due out for the PS4 on February 28th in Japan, and the PS4 and PC March 5th in North America and Europe. Let's hit this. And then this.
Stormy, stormy.
Job's done.
Then in the turn. Next, TechRaptor has an article, and most of these articles I would skip, but Nutaku, the adult game store's 4th birthday celebration, is happening apparently right now, and it has gold discounts and great game deals. TechRaptor is affiliated with Nutaku. Also, apparently there's a special contest. Like everything, every link they link to is not safe for work, so yeah, that's there if you're interested. I'm still very much in the opinion that Nutaku is in early stages at best of becoming a good storefront for adult games. They're really not making or selling what I think are high quality products a lot of times, and frankly you would have to be a pretty sex obsessed person to frequent their store very much, just because even though Steam, and we have a story about this, Steam is inconsistent with allowing adult games on their platform. Steam is still very much, I think, the place where you get the good quality ones and not just shovelware. Let's see. Moving on as soon as this tab loads. Seems like TechRaptor doesn't want to load very fast today. Maybe we'll just skip to Gamma Sutra article then while that loads. Remember, all I'm trying to do right now is use my hero ability and cast
This power is ecstasy.
let's see. Yep. So, Gamma Sutra has an article. The GLAAD Media Awards list nominees for video games with outstanding LGBTQ themes has come out. And it's kind of unfortunate because... excuse me. One second. The Hot Ones YouTube channel, where celebrities eat what I gather is actually pretty bad, bad flavored, super hot sauce, starred, the newest episode that I saw, starred Gordon Ramsay, and he crashed and burned. He could not take the heat at all. He started coughing a lot, just like I was. So that's why I was reminded of that. But that's not very video game related. Anyway, so the nominees for video games with outstanding LGBTQ themes is an unfortunate pick here because, in all honesty, I'm not sure that a lot of these actually have themes more than just options, and I feel like they should hold them to probably a higher standard. The 5 games that are listed are Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which, okay, there's a problem immediately because Assassin's Creed Odyssey just came out with that DLC that forced players who were playing their character as gay to then, I think the name of the DLC was actually called Growing Up or something, just implying that the 2 characters, either the brother or sister that you were playing as, weren't even adults in making their decisions up until that point if they decided to be gay, and forced them to have a heterosexual relationship. And it was just, from the best I can tell, awkwardly written, awkwardly thought out, not something that would have been really needed to be done. The next one is the Elder Scrolls Online Somerset, which I'm not sure, again, that this is, like, it is outstanding LGBTQ themes, and really it seems like it more just boils down to all the games on this list will allow you to play as gay characters. They don't actually list any themes or force anybody to play as those characters. This is hardly like, I want to say like the play Rent. I don't know if that's a good reference or not, where clearly being gay, I think, was a big part of the play Rent. It's been a while since I've seen it, and I'm sure that there's dozens and dozens of other plays that I just am failing to name like that, musicals and such. I think that one Funhouse had something to do with that. Had those themes. The next one on the list is Guild Wars 2 Path of Fire. Again, like, I don't even know what's in that game, but I imagine, again, it's just a character. If I think about it, games with characters where it's a big point that they're gay would be, I don't know, did Life is Strange 1 or Life is Strange Before the Storm ever actually touch upon whether those girls were actually gay or were they just dancing around it? The Last of Us, particularly, I think the DLC for The Last of Us focused somewhat on that. Did I get either one of the quest ends? Yeah, just need 3 more Shaman class cards. We can just try and win a little bit more. Let's see, is there the Ballad of Gay Tony? Like, there's probably some gay themes in that, but yeah. See, what this really boils down to is a lot of games just, well, the term is queerbait. I won't use that term too often, but they use that term and that idea to just convince, particularly a lot of activists, SJW, video game journalists, to write positively about their games. But it's not really a case in the story. It's not helpful. It doesn't add anything to the characterization. There's another phrase that gets thrown around, being gay isn't a personality. I think particularly in writing that phrase is valid. I think as sometimes as a rebuttal or accusation against people, is probably not valid. But these games, I guess they probably struggled to even find 5 games that came out in 1 year. The last 2 are The Pillars of Eternity 2, Deadfire, and then The Sims Mobile. And as far as The Sims go, again, it's just player choice, player option. There's, let's see, see if there's anything else in this article. So it says at the bottom, GLAD notes that it has been in communication with Ubisoft about the DLC and that the developer is following feedback from the LGBTQ community and announced it will change the add-on to better reflect the nature of the relationship for players selecting a non-romantic and will ensure the paths the players experience mirror the choices they make in the game in future releases. Yeah, that's doublespeak though, because I'm fairly certain that they said they weren't going to change the current DLC, and I think this is being misreported. Because if there are changes made, I suspect it will be extremely extremely small. I also have to take small concern here that the GLAD organization, the Gay and Lesbian Alliance Against Defamation, would wield enough influence that they would potentially be able to censor or change an artist's interpretation in the case of Assassin's Creed Odyssey. I would much prefer an artist tell a bad story that is their own than force an artist to tell even a slightly better story that isn't their own. Because if you're not allowed to freely express yourself, hey, isn't that what being in the closet is all about? Is not being feeling free to express yourself and be the true person you are. So while I'm fine with GLAD having opinions on games, the idea that they are gonna call somebody up and tell them you need to change your game is scary. Certainly, at least in part. What's weird here is the one time I would bring up games like Butterfly Soup and Dream Daddy, Dad Dating Simulator, games like that would be in this case, and they didn't include any of those. That's a little weird. You should have those games. I think they came out in some form or fashion last year, but instead these games that are getting awarded are clearly AAA games, not the small independent games. Oh, and yeah, if you want to talk about games with strong, outstanding LGBTQ themes, there's dozens, if not hundreds, of gay games that were visual novels that came out last year. They could have taken a pick of any of those Japanese visual novels, and that would have been much better. And yet, this is just another case of where the Western world has this antagonism and leaves out the obvious people who should win that category, which would be Japanese developers. And don't get me wrong, Japanese in general still don't treat their own people who are gay amazingly well, but at least in their art form, they do pretty decent representation, better than I'd say Western, the rest of the West does. Let's move on now. We went on that. What is this? Okay. Now TechRaptor finally decided it's gonna load. TechRaptor has an article. See indie games get honored at the 3rd annual BIT Awards. Did I play enough cards? There we go. So what are the 3rd annual BIT Awards? I haven't heard of the BIT Awards, but I guess that it's only been going for 3 years, so that might explain it. We're done with the Americas account. So let's move over to the European account. Let's see. The PC Console Game of the Award nominees, I guess, for the 3rd annual BIT Awards are Dungeon Haven, Evergate, Kung Fu Kickball, Lamplight City, Punch Planet, and Swim Sanity. I haven't heard of any of these games. This makes me suspect I'm not going to have heard of any of these games at all. Which is saying a lot, frankly, because I'm looking at every game that's coming out on Steam, which means that all of these indie games are not even bothering to do Steam Direct. Let's see, do I want to do Warlock cards or Overload cards? I think Overload cards would be more difficult. So we need to win 2 games with Warlock, and then 2 games with Paladin or Warrior. And we got the Tavern Brawl here. Just double checking. And we're gonna actually try and play here and win. Mobile Game of the Year Award nominees are a game called Hamsterdam, Imposter, Drawster, In the Dark, Narakan, Mew and Me, Repertoire, and Sound Sky. And then there's a Tabletop Game of the Year, which I guess these are real world tabletop games and not just like digital versions of tabletop games. So the nominees for that are to Clear the Decks, Saturday Morning Games, Gladius, Hero, Tale of the Tomes, Smack Talk Showdown, and Status Report. And then there's a Best Style category. It's 0 Degrees North, 0 Degrees West, Ambition, A Minute in Power, Evergate, Hamsterdam, Jupiter and Mars, and Punch Planet. And
Why do you
play
fall?
that. And do that. They have a Best XR game presented by Bose. So those are games made for VR or AR or mixed reality. The nominees are Cubism, Host, Jupiter and Mars, Mr. Mart, The Rig, and The Taken. Then they have a category Best Student Game. Which the nominees for Best Student Game are Anyball, Flight Simulator, In the Dark Narakan, King of the Hat, Roll Control, and Seasons. Man, I hate that sound. I need to fix that. Then they have a category for Rising Pixel Award, which is like peer selected awards to the gaming community leaders. So the nominees are a person in New York named Sam Ing, a person named Caroline Murphy in Boston, and a person named Dawn Bellinger in San Francisco. And then they have a Player's Choice Award, and this is the first game I recognize in this entire list of lists. Gris for Player's Choice. I would assume that wins just by recognizability. The other Option nominees are Kung Fu Kickball, Swim Sanity, Tornado Roulette, Where Shadows Slumber, and a game called Zarvot. Well, I can certainly understand why I haven't ever heard of the Bit Awards when you literally have just a ton of nominations from people that are completely unrecognizable. That is a slight problem. Scrolling back up, the Bit Awards are hosted by a game development organization, Playcrafting, which is also a company I've not heard of. Well, it's always good to know what you don't know, but that kind of was a pointless article. Speaking of pointless, we have a game on Steam called Blocks, which is almost certainly just a simplistic physics game, probably a platformer from the looks of it. Yeah. This is not of any interest to me. It's discounted to $2.99. Has 40 levels in it. That's not interesting at all.
Unleash me.
If this guy could play like Unleash the Hounds and kill my guy with like an owl, he could win in this turn. Moving on, Gamasutra has an article. Nintendo isn't considering a Switch price cut or successor quite yet. Nintendo has stuck to its guns about the 20 million Switch sales goal it set for its current fiscal year at every turn, including a recent interview with the Sankai News and translated by Nintendo Everything. This article goes on further, but I think we can just read the title and get the general idea.
Well played.
In all honesty, a Switch successor, it's not something that I think would be amazingly well received unless it's backwards compatible, which then it might be well received. It probably should make their next 3 generations backwards compatible. If they could all just read memory cards for going forward, that would be great. But the reason that they keep changing the cartridge size and shape has really nothing to do with the size and shape of the medium as much as it has to do with just they don't want you to be able to run like old looking games on new looking consoles so that you have a bad experience. If I really was desperate for a Switch, I think I could probably get a Switch on sale. I would look at Slick Deals several times a day, slickdeals.net, and there are at least bundles that are decent deals where you can get a couple of games and maybe a $50 cashback reward card and a Switch for like $350. So you're getting maybe $60-$70 discount off of it. But that initial $350 is, or $250 just to buy a Switch, plus one game for $60 is still a pretty expensive way. Meanwhile, I saw on Slick Deals you can get a refurbished Xbox 360 sometimes for as low as $30, and boy, if I was buying a video game console for kids, I'd say, hey, go get them several Xbox 360s refurbished. You can get ton of Xbox 360 games for like $10 each or less at a GameStop. So you can get quite a lot of yeah, you're gonna have a lot more to pick from, particularly if you're talking young kids that don't quite have peers that are playing the Switch. That's when you run into the problem, is when you start having kids and they're talking to their friends and they have Switches, then you're screwed. You just gotta get them whatever their friends are playing. But if you're trying to get them in earlier, before their friends have consoles, that's a pretty good deal. Moving on, though. Let's see.
Your magic shall not save you.
Let's see what the next thing we had. Team YouTube on Twitter tweeted out a notice, copyright claims, colon. This is top of our minds, and many of you we want to know it's a want you to know it's a priority for us. We've rounded up frequently asked questions of best practices, and we will keep addressing reports of invalid claims. We take this seriously and investigate as many as we can, and then it links to a Google thing. Now, here's the deal. They don't take it seriously. They just don't. The thing here is so obvious that the same people, the big time players that they don't want to piss off, the WBs, the Vivendis, things like that. Nintendo of Japan's a great example for video games. Like, so obvious that some of them do not respect US copyright law. They do not believe it's real. They claim everything regardless. They reject counterclaims, and the way the system is designed is totally punitive and punishing, so that you cannot, there is no button in a copyright claim to flag this as an invalid copyright claim. So the idea of reporting something as an invalid claim is not real. You would have to try and reach out on YouTube, and Team YouTube is just gonna give you this kind of BS. Here goes. Question: what is the deal with YouTube? What is YouTube doing to deal with companies abusing the system and making bad claims? More. It starts off with a standard non-response sentence. Content ID is a powerful tool and is only given to claimants after careful review and training. That's where the lie starts right there. Like, if they kicked out a decent amount of the abusers from Content ID and made people manually find and flag and file either DMCA's claims, which I guess is the only other option, and frankly at this point I would prefer that it were a system where the bad actors were kicked out of Content ID. They had to manually file DMCA's. When they manually filed DMCA's, at that point my videos would be taken down. I would prefer it that way, because then these bad actors would not bother to do it, or at least they'd be on some slight hook of copyright claims. But then anytime a DMCA is filed, your channel almost immediately gets a copyright strike for no reason, because they're abusing the DMCA as much as they're abusing Content ID. Here's the next paragraph sentence that's a lie. Out of the millions of Content ID claims created each week, actual abuse is very rare. And when it's found, we take strong actions including terminating channels, kicking companies out of content. Just last month, international DJ The Fat Rat had a song calling that was inappropriately claimed. After investigating, we terminated this claimant's Content ID partnership. Wow, they can find one example in the entire month. A question. Companies are claiming just a few seconds of a video. How is that not abuse? Like, despite what some people may think, there's no duration which you can use someone else's content that is automatically protected under fair use. Yes there is. That's just a false interpretation of the copyright law. That there is a metric of substantiability, and a few seconds in precedent-setting cases have been thrown out as not an abuse of copyright. In here, in fact, courts have rejected fair use arguments for songs that only sample a few seconds of content. Courts are all over the board, but I also think that's BS. I don't think that's true. I'm seeing manual claims on my videos. How can I deal with them? Yeah. The next one is, but these companies are getting all the creators' revenue for just a few seconds of video. That's unfair. And that's inherently the problem, is like, if somebody wants to claim copyright, fine, I'll take out that section. I would rather the videos be muted or be cut. But don't make it a monetary incentive for people to lie and claim things that they really don't have the right for. Here's one. I don't recognize the name of this claimant, but I know they aren't the real owner. Who is this scammer? Which is a consistent problem. And they're going, copyrights are bought and sold by administrators, all sorts of third parties around the world, which is, yeah, well, that's BS. And that shouldn't be in the Content ID system. Yeah, this is just a long list of bull. But inherently, also, you can probably tell by my own tone in response to these questions, content creators are so dug in at this point, and we've been kicked around so much with the Content ID system, that this is probably the #1 reason why people on YouTube hate YouTube. And you're not going to win any good graces unless you make some major changes and really do something different. And giving us pandering BS responses of, this is how it really is. No, it's all good. There really isn't any abuse. Is really just more of an example of how YouTube and people that work at YouTube and Google probably in general just have their own heads up their own butt, and they're nowhere close to even recognizing the way things really are.
Your magic shall not save
To my side.
So yeah, meanwhile people on Twitch are not having to deal with anywhere as much as of a problem as YouTube is, particularly playing video games. And a lot of people on Twitch are just playing music in the background, full-length music, and they still aren't running into any real problems. That's because I don't think Twitch allows you to monetize videos on demand, and even if it did, there's so little people actually going back and watching videos on demand on Twitch, it's not getting anybody any money. Honestly, YouTube should get rid of the content ID system completely. Like, start over from scratch. Think again. Make everybody manually verify things. Stop punishing people when all you have is the word of a self-interested party to say that they own things. Like, if I, on my channel, had 100 copyright claims and it didn't punish my channel in any way, it'd be fine. But that's not how it goes. It's a 3 strikes and you're out, but not really 3 strikes because you can be out earlier or later, and it can be whatever they want it to be. Alright, but I'm going to get into a rant, and I kind of don't want this stream to go super long, so I'm going to get out of that. Drop it. But yeah, YouTube still got their own head up their own butt. It makes sense why they just linked to that article, because they probably even knew it wasn't going to go over well. Next we have a game called Lights Out on Steam. It's a free student project from, let's see, what is it from? During the last trimester of a 1-year program. It's the Lay Campus ADN in Montreal, Quebec, Canada. And I love to cover these student project games because it really goes to show if you are actually in a good game programming class, you can make an actually pretty good looking game, which goes to then show all these low effort asset flips that are on Steam either involve people who never went to a actual programming class, college, or flunked out, or should have flunked out for just a lack of ability. So yeah, Lights Out. It looks like it's a platformer like style of game of sorts, kind of just experimenting with things. It looks like a game with more funding and time could have actually been fleshed out into a full game. And again, it's free, and I probably will need to look at the publisher and the developer to see if there's several other games that come out at the same time. This.
Nice to meet you.
Freeze and play. Game Sutra has an article. Tencent uses a model's likeness for Rings of Elysium without permission. Tencent Games seems to have used the likeness of a model without a permission for a character skin in Rings of Elysium. Let's see if we can get this. This was reported by US Gamer. The model is Mei Yan, whose previous photos for an online fashion brand, Omocat, resurfaced in Rings of Elysium's first season battle pass titled The Adventure Pass for the character Lin. Let's see. Yan is aware of the likeness and tells US Gamer that she was never contacted by Tencent asking for permission to use or manipulate images of her. While Yan is now speaking with those involved with Rings of Elysium, she's yet to hear anything from Tencent. Let's quote, "It was pretty crazy to see myself in-game without giving prior consent. I'm pretty used to having my content and likeness stolen, but this is really on another level. How did they think no one would notice they blatantly stole an image of a pre-existing purpose?" So this is one of those cases where the web peak comes in handy because we'll want to show the exact combination. So it seems like on the left we have this real world picture, and on the right we have what I think is Rings of Elysium, which has just been touched up and changed. When you look at the hair curl here, that's not something that you're likely going to have otherwise. But if you look over here on this hair, you can see that they did in some ways touch up the hair, probably in just cropping out the image, and they've changed the necklace to be darker, they've changed the shirt. Seems like they've also either seen her legs or added legs and hands because the image is a little zoomed out further. They changed this mask and added earrings, but this is hardly a case of they've made it so significantly different. So yeah, if you ever doubted that Chinese companies don't respect copyright, they don't seem to even respect it. I assume that she's Chinese, but I could be totally wrong about that, so apologies there. They don't respect copyright anywhere, even inside their own country, not unless the Chinese government comes knocking. Then they might respect copyright. Yeah, one of the things, it's a little political to say this, is the problem with China is it's just too big. There are sections that very possibly are decades to hundreds of years further back in their development of China compared to other sections. Whereas a comparison in the United States is we might have areas that are 10, maybe 20 years back in forms of education and just accepting of progressive ideas in the United States, but 20 years would be about the biggest difference, whereas yeah, parts of China are 100 years behind. I think same might be said for India, and I think even some in the outskirts of Japan, the same might be said. It is a problem when you have countries modernizing very fast that people are going to get left behind, and you're just going to have to wait until they die out. Let's see. Moving on, Gematsu has an article. Ys 9's Adol, ADOL, has an unexpected appearance and other tidbits from Dengekai, DNGEKI, PlayStation. So Dengekai PlayStation is apparently a magazine. I haven't heard of it. And so it's really just a screenshot with characters behind bars. And it's really just an advertisement for Ys 9 Monstrum Nox, which is due out for the PS4 in 2019, so that's not really much of an article. Let's go ahead and play defensively. Gamma Sutra has an article. Facebook shot down safeguards to keep kids from overspending in Facebook games. Facebook is under fire for allegedly facilitating overspending by minors in free-to-play games on Facebook. And internal documents now show that the company chose not to implement security measures that would have prevented kids from unknowingly pouring their parents' money into games. According to the reveal from the Center for Investigative Reporting, court documents contain internal Facebook memos, strategies, and employee emails show that Facebook employees knowingly exploited the spending habits of children playing free-to-play games, and in some cases refused to refund parents who had become aware of their children's spending. So this definitely sounds bad for Facebook. They could be doing a lot of spin there, certainly, but that does not sound good. Alright, we need a Paladin and Warrior victory. I'm gonna just move over to casual play because we're going straight for victories now. If you want to read the full review, go to Reveal's website. Some of these document label children as whales, typically a term for big spenders and free-to-play player bases. In many cases, overspending by minors was the result of either the child not realizing they were spending real money by purchasing in-game goodies or currencies, or parents not knowing their credit card information had been stored in the games that their kids are playing. Yeah, and I could totally see that. Like, I could totally see a parent saying, alright, I'll buy you this one thing. The game saves your credit card information, and then you can just buy more things later. In a resulting study looking to explain the high refund rate, Facebook found that 93% of those refunds were due to parents not knowing the game was charging their credit card, largely because parents don't think the child would be allowed to buy anything without their password or authorization first. Yeah, it's hard for a
Uther versus Anduin.
it's hard for a
with honor.
what am I trying to say? Hard for parents these days with kids and all these digital trappings you can run into. There's definitely a case to be made that you probably should use one-time codes for any purchases online to any new places anyways. Like one-time credit card numbers, single-use things. But that's extra work, and that's a feature that's not available, I think, to everybody. But it probably is the best move, I would say, to do
protects me
right now. Next, we have a really long website URL. It says it's can I post and monetize
Is someone injured?
monetize Devolver. Let's see, monetize of digital Devolver games. Videos of can I post and monetize videos of DevolverGames.com. That is an incredibly long joke URL. But if you go to it, it takes you to a website that says, can I stream and monetize Devolver Digital Games? ? Then there's a line that says, we said yes, period. And then it says, please enter your Twitch and YouTube channel name to automatically create written permission. Which, alright, I will go to this website. Here, we can even do a web peek of it. And we'll get written permission, because written permission is sometimes the thing you need. I think Devolver Digital had already said this, so this is really just more of a case of them re-saying something that I think they had already been pretty lenient. And quite frankly, there aren't too many Devolver Digital games out there, and the ones that you play probably aren't going to get monetized, claimed anyways. Like, the irony here is the ones that get claimed, the videos that get claimed, are often the WB, the popular games. Devolver Digital, on the other hand, is small niche games that are moderately popular for their niche audience, but they're hardly AAA games. Moving on, we have a game on Steam called Light the Way, which maybe is a good game. I don't want to just immediately call it an asset flip running around a scary dark area. Not seeing really any gameplay here. It seems like you actually have a gun that just shoots light, and there's some gameplay mechanic. First person horror adventure game. Places a strange house after your character has been kidnapped by a stranger. It's $6.29. I'm willing to give this one a chance and put it on the follow list. Like, there might be something there.
Reporting for duty. To battle! To battle!
I fight.
There we go. Next, we have a game on Steam called Chaos Caves, which looks like a physics swinging around platforming game. Doesn't look particularly interesting to me. Yeah, feels like that Worms game, like Worms World Party, where you have a grappling hook as one ability, but you would need more than that to the game. It's $5.03, and it says it's single player and multiplayer. Yeah, this just feels like a bad clone of a Worms game, and frankly, I'm not sure I'd ever even really want to cover and play all the Worms games. A lot of that boils down to just how many times you're gonna have friends around playing with you on PC.
To battle!
I fight.
Here's probably the biggest news for today. Nintendo, Game Switcher has an article. Nintendo is restarting Metroid Prime 4 development with the series' originator Retro Studios. That being said, it is important to remember that Retro Studios had some major layoffs, and so it's really not a good, it's not the same place. I mean, even if nobody had left Retro Studios, just the time there means it won't be the same place. But apparently the previous developer, who was the previous developer of Metroid 4 Prime 4, was not doing what they liked. It wasn't going well, and so that they're just starting over from scratch, so it's going to take even longer. In all honesty, I don't think that they were really working on it too hard. Seems pretty obvious now they did not put the A-team on that, if it can happen here. Like, the only way really you get a Metroid Prime 4 that felt a lot like Metroid Prime 1 or 2 or 3 is by having Metroid Prime 4 developed right after Metroid Prime 3. Now that there's been time, now that people have moved down, the game really needs to be the beginning of a new sequel, a new trilogy, and so it's got to be better than Metroid Prime 1, 2, and 3 were. Not just the same. And I'm trying to remember if Metroid Prime 3 was the game that nobody liked, or if that was a different Metroid game. Was Metroid Prime 3 the one where Samus was in her blue skin-tight latex suit the whole time, and the only reason she wasn't using her abilities is because John, I believe his name was, her commanding officer, was telling her she wasn't authorized to use them, and she was mostly running around talking to people and other humans and on a space base instead of on a planet doing your standard Metroid thing. Retro's last game that they made was Donkey Kong Tropical Freeze, so it almost feels like what they did was buy themselves some time by having somebody else work on the basic foundation of Metroid Prime 4, or at least that was their idea, and then they were going to hand it over to Retro later. But if that was the plan, then why are they saying they're starting from scratch?
More take candles.
In all honesty, I really wouldn't know how to make Metroid Prime 4 either. Like, it's gotta be... At least every section's gotta be 2 or 3 times bigger than the sections of Metroid Prime 1. There's gotta be a lot of level design.
Reporting for duty.
And it's still that 3D idea that really hasn't been done anywhere else as far as Metroidvania. And as far as Metroidvanias go, yeah, it's not like a new Castlevania coming out anytime soon. I watched a speedrun of a Game Boy Advanced, like, I think it's a Japanese only Game Boy Advanced Castlevania game, and it became rather obvious very quickly that there is just a lot of content in that, at least that one game, because you're fighting, they were fighting like griffins and skeletons and mummies, I think, and angels and demons, and each of these characters, it was a tool-assisted speedrun, so TaskBot was running it. Each of these characters had a chance of giving you a soul for defeating that creature, and so it was manipulating RNG to always get the soul of that creature, and every time you got a soul of that creature, you were then capable of using that creature's attack or abilities in some way. Let's see. What can I do? Nothing.
Speak your peace.
According to Gamma Sutra, Metroid Prime 1, 2, and 3 were highly rated, well-received 3D interpretations of the Metroid series. I think also, when you approach the Metroid series, you have this issue where they had shifted all of the old style Metroid games into mobile. So Metroid Fusion, I believe, is one of the most recent ones.
For justice.
And so that they're making remakes of Metroid and Super Metroid and improving on them and making 2D games on mobile. The problem now is that since the Switch is both the mobile console and the home console, they're gonna have to make a 2D Metroid game for the Switch eventually also. And have some competition there. Moving on, Gamasutra has an article. The DeepMind AI faces off against and defeats StarCraft 2 pro players. So I think DeepMind AI won all the games except for one.
Let me think.
Apparently it had less actions per minute than the pro players, but that didn't matter. And what else is there really to say about it? It scanned like I think it scanned games for 200 hours to program itself how to play. I think was all it did, and that's all it needed. But what does this really matter? I mean, it's really just showing off what AI can do in some pretty limited scenarios. In the end, I seriously doubt people would ever pay for a ticket or go and want to see. If I do Wind Fury right now, I don't think that's good enough. So I'm going to do that. I doubt people would pay to purchase tickets to go see an AI play at a StarCraft 2 tournament. And right now there's a lot of hype and a lot of interest in seeing real pro players play that. Now, Korea is in trouble as soon as StarCraft 2 stops becoming popular and esports stop becoming popular or viable as a career path. But that is a kind of separate issue. Let's see this.
Reporting for duty.
And this.
To battle! To battle!
We'll go ahead and do that. Gamatsu has the same article. Metroid Prime development restarted at Retro Studios. A long road ahead for the anticipated sequel. There's a video with it, but it really is just somebody at Nintendo talking to the screen, which is the Nintendo Direct concept. Alright, let's see if we can get a Shaman victory kind of easily here. This one was updated with rumors. Updated 3:15. Game Informer senior editor Aaron Kahn has shared a series of insights, albeit unconfirmed, into the development of the Metroid Prime form and rumored Metroid Prime trilogy for the Switch. You know, if a Metroid Prime trilogy did come out for the Switch, I would be excited about that. That would be something. Like there are a decent number of Wii games that could come back for the Switch. I'm a little surprised that like Wii Bowling hasn't come back to the Switch in some way. It should still work just fine. I'm gonna scroll through this and see if there's Quote, the last I heard of the game was around September when people told me it was proceeding fine. Nintendo of America President and CEO Reggie Fils-Aimé even said the same in December, when clearly it must have been boiling over.
What to do?
According to Khan, Metroid Prime 4 was being developed by a patched together team across different countries Maybe parts of it were working fine, but other parts weren't. Later he added, hearing that the big problem of Metroid Prime development was Nintendo's experimental ad hoc developmental process. It was being made in parts in different countries. Some studios were trucking along saying it was going smoothly while it was on fire elsewhere. Internal thinking was that it needed to be all under one roof to right the ship. Interestingly, Retro made the pitch for their involvement and put together a demo that Nintendo liked. Okay, well, that does sound like a terrible way to make a video game. On Reset Era, Khan also mentioned there's more Metroid stuff besides Metroid Prime 4 in development, and I would imagine the Metroid Prime 4 delay adjusts their schedule a bit. So there probably is somehow some secret 2D Metroid game coming out for the Switch before Metroid Prime comes out. What are we trying to do? Just win? I guess that's what we're trying to do. Next we have a game on Steam, LCD Sports American Football. Now, the MAME team has been taking a lot of these LCD handheld games and I guess building ROMs directly from the circuitry in them, because these old LCD games, some of them at least, a lot of them, didn't actually have per se chips in them as much as it was just a etched out circuitry in general for all the logic. So there's no actual ROM in them or file to pull off and then make an emulator around. Instead, they're having to emulate the actual hardware down to what would happen if one button was pressed or another. I don't kind of feel like this is part of that project, but certainly this is, if you were particularly old and remember this, you might be nostalgic for it. But $7.99 is extremely expensive, even discounted, for a game like this. And I don't have any nostalgia for this game because I never played it. I never had one, I guess. Is how you say that? So, yeah, that's not going to go to the fall list. That would also be an incredibly difficult game to try and review or have anything to say about. There's not a lot to say there without nostalgia. Moving on, GameIndustry.biz has an article. China finally greenlights new Tencent and NetEase games, but Fortnite and PUBG are still left waiting. The nation's leading publishers included in the latest batch of approvals. Let's see if it says what the games are that were approved. 2 mobile games from Tencent and 1 from NetEase, both were approved after this 9 months freeze in China of games being approved. But until Fortnite and PUBG get approved in China, I don't think a couple of mobile games are going to be anything but a small stopgap.
The calm before the storm.
But I suppose China was going to have to either find some justification or approve something from Tencent and NetEase eventually. I mean, but it's the Chinese government. They could have ignored it and not approved anything for years and given no reason whatsoever. It feels like probably what they're approving right now are some very, very basic bad mobile games in general. Alright. If I do this, and then do this. And kill that first. Then attack. attack. Can't attack there, unfortunately, so we'll just attack there. And then the turn. GameIndustry.biz has the same article. Facebook ignored solution to children overspending in games. Unsealed document reveals social network instead wanted to, quote, maximize revenues. Next we have a game on Steam called Dark Sun Pictures, Dark Sun, the space shooter. It seems like it's trying to be really ambitious here, but honestly this just looks like another annoying asteroid clone game with a little bit more polish on it. It's 99 cents. It's not from any recognizable publisher or developer. Sorry, as a game it just does not look interesting at all, so it's not going to the fall list. And are we done with the European accounts? Yes we are. Let's jump to the Asian account now. There is a note here on Hearthstone, and I don't know if I got it to launch or not, but apparently they're going to make it easier to climb up the ranks again, or maybe they've already done that and they're just publishing the article again to talk about that.
Come, sit a while and
I still would like it to be easier to get up to the ranks. I feel like as somebody who's played as much as I have and has as many cards as I have and plays as consistently as I do, I should be a little bit higher. Alright, so we need to play Paladin cards and get 30 victories with the Hunter and Mage. Let's see if we can do that relatively quickly. TechRaptor has an article, Coverage Club at Cinders and the Modern Fairy Tale. So this is probably an older game. It looks kind of like it might be a visual novel, a Western one.
None can escape my fury.
Let the hunt begin.
It's available on the Humble Bundle. Interesting. That's where the link went. It's on Steam, but clicking on Steam, the PC link took me to the Humble Bundle store. By the way, Humble Bundle right now is giving Deponia the Complete Journey away for free. I would recommend anybody who's interested in point-and-click adventure games get that, even if you already have Deponia in a different form, because there's several different versions of Deponia that are available. Let's see if we can. Can we get external links to it?
I wonder.
Quickly.
I'm trying to get to Cinders on Steam, and it's proving itself to be more difficult than probably should be. I guess that is one of the things that I might have some slight skill on, is the ability to browse the web. Yeah, as far as TechRaptor's Coverage Club, I mean, all it really is doing is writing an article without giving scores to games, so that's not super helpful.
I hunt alone.
So this game, Cinders, is rated very positively. It came out in 2012. It's a visual novel of kind of like Victorian times, with also some like fairy tale elements and maybe some voodoo too. It looks pretty. There's really, I'm not aiming to add a ton of visual novels to my wish list, but I think this one probably does deserve to be there if it's not there already. Again, still not really in any position where I know I would ever be able to play them or know how to play them and cover them. GameIndustry.biz has the same article. Development restarts on Metroid Prime 4. Retro Studios back in the fold. I may have already talked about that. Next we have a game on Steam called Dragon Roller Coaster VR, which doesn't look like a terrible game. Oddly though, I'm pretty sure I saw a roller coaster VR game that looked somewhat similar to this a couple months ago, but this does look better. I imagine there's like a asset that's being flipped here. It says $3.59 for a VR game, which is incredibly cheap though, and quite frankly, even if I was going to get a VR headset, the last thing I'd want to do is do roller coaster stuff. That sounds like a total nightmare. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called De Profundis, which sounds like it's a Latin game, but looks like it's just a text-based game. Yeah. English language not supported. It's French, so it's like a French text-based game. You don't get a lot of text-based games, and you definitely don't get a lot of games that are French only. Let's see. Freezing trap. Next we have a game on Steam called Derail Valley, which looks like a VR train running simulator.
Hail,
Like,
friend.
you would think Train Simulator should have VR built into it. Other better known train simulators probably do, and I just don't recognize that. This is early access, $19.99. I have really no interest in playing train games though, so I'm not going to put that on the fall list.
Hail,
And
friend.
yeah, I'm gonna just try to go through this, and we'll make like a 2 hour and 30-minute single episode today, since I started late and we're almost done. TechRaptor has an article. Dawn of Man lets you battle bears and repel raiders. That's not what I was looking for. I was looking for a victory. So, what is this game? Dawn of Man. Well, I'm looking at them and they're talking about this game, but I'm certainly not interested in it. Let's see, here we can show it off. And Steam shows it a little bit better than what it looked like on TechRaptor's screenshots. You know what? I might be willing to give this one a follow. We'll see. It's not even out yet, but yeah, if this is more than an asset flip game, if it really is something like a Far Cry Primal with a slightly different spin to it, I might be willing to try. I probably shouldn't have gotten rid of the weapon. TechRaptor has this article, Off the Shelf on the Tabletop, Highlander the board game. apparently there was a Highlander board game at some point. Interesting. Like, I just wanted to see that because I thought that that would have been... That's really weird. Highlander. Really a series rife for a video game tie-in that maybe there was a Game Boy tie-in for Highlander or something like that, but you probably could have had AA or even AAA games tied into the Highlander series come out relatively frequently. I mean, the concept is very video game-ish in the first place. There can be only one. You have to... These people are immortal except for when you cut off their heads. Thus, there are going to be a lot of sword fights. I mean, that game For Honor, for example, if that was a Highlander tie-in game instead, that might have been a lot more interesting. Not that the Highlander TV or movie series are particularly good, and in fact they're pretty awful. But it did have something that was slightly interesting about its insane explosion effects that it would do whenever an immortal's head got chopped off. Moving on, we have a game called Maestro Dark Talent Collector's Edition from Big Fish Games, another hidden object game for $12.99. Buy the entire hidden object games franchise. Yeah, that'll cost you a good $1,000. Apparently this is part of a series. Like all the hidden object games from Big Fish Games, I bet are going to eventually just always be in a series of some sort. That way it always feels like you need to buy more than one of them. Gamatsu has an article, Nippon Ichi Software announces Murder Detective Jack the Ripper for PS4 and Switch, a new adventure game. All I have here is kind of a screenshot, and that's kind of it. It'll be for the PS4 and Switch. It'll launch April 25th in Japan. The other thing I heard, or I almost feel like I dreamed this because it's something I've been wanting to hear and have happen for a long time, is I think I heard that Ace Attorney and the detective one that's like Ace Attorney, Professor Layton. Yeah, I think maybe it was all the Professor Layton games are getting bundled and maybe coming to PC? Like, I heard this, but I kind of don't remember where I heard it, so unless I have an article here that says this, I may be making all of this up and just have dreamed it. TechRaptor has an article, Where's Wario? The unrealized potential of Wario Land. I kind of agree with this too, is that Wario Land 1 and 2 for Game Boy was kind of a cool idea and a concept for a game, and then they started putting Wario in other styles of games and barely involving him as his own series like he used to be. And so yeah, that kind of sucks. Like we could do for Wario Land games to be coming out every couple of years in between a Mario Land series game. But it really might just be a case of Nintendo doesn't have enough fuel for that fire. I'm watching a YouTuber series that's playing a Wii Wario game called like Wario Land Shake It or something that I didn't even know existed. Yep.
Well fought.
Oops. Well, that's one way to get a victory. There is a good argument that they only have enough game designers and level designers to make to make Mario games, and if they spread themselves too thin, making Wario games and Mario games, which are relatively the same style of gameplay and level designs and enemy placement and coin placement and everything, both games would probably suffer. And Nintendo is very cautious about oversaturating the market, for better or worse, and possibly for better. They might actually be pretty wise to not release a new Mario game every year. And I think you could probably even make an argument that Splatoon 2 came out a little too early after Splatoon 1. Moving on, Gematsu has an article. Earth Defense Force Iron Rain launches April 11th worldwide. So more Earth Defense Force games are coming. Earth Defense Forces, of course, are the games where you fight giant bugs. Let's see if it says what consoles they're coming out on. No. It says it's tagged PlayStation 4, so that's the best I can figure.
I hunt alone.
Job done.
Let's see. Yeah, it seems like it's a PlayStation 4 only game, unfortunately.
Out of my jungle.
Next we have a game on Steam called The Wanderer. Let's see. Post-apocalyptic strategy. Looks like it's probably a point-and-click adventure game. It's a little dark here. Oh, it's not. Hex grid battles? I was not expecting that. Just jump through all of this. Jump through all of this. Looks almost like an RPG game. I frankly, for $2.09 discounted, I don't have any faith in this game, so I'm not going to put it on the follow list. It just does not feel like something that actually would succeed or be a good game. Wednesday we had an article about how My Time at Porsche was promising to pay people who voice actors who had been underpaid or not paid. Now TechRaptor has a review from My Time at Porsche. It's My Time at Porsche review, Forever Fun Farming. My Time at Porsche being another like farming style, Harvest Moon style game. Looking at the screenshots, it doesn't look terrible. The problem is I just hate farming. And I guess there's an underlying point there too where I don't particularly like maybe Minecraft and mining as much as I might have thought I did. For similar reasons, the repetitiveness of this. One of the YouTubers I follow that was playing Stoneblock 1 has moved on to Stoneblock 2, and in their first episode they were as confused as far as what to do as I was, and I haven't played Minecraft in since 2016, and I've never played modded before, so I think Stoneblock 2 is the weird oddity more than anything. TechRaptor gives My Time at Porsche an 8.0 great. My Time at Porsche suffers from arbitrary long timers in its crafting system, but that's overshadowed by a rustic aesthetic and an in-depth social system. For fans of the crafting and farming simulation genre, it is a title worth checking out. Pros: innovative social system, charming characters, attractive cartoony aesthetic. Cons: crafting takes forever, and mining gets frustrating. So I'm just going to end the turn there. Alright. Let's see. Next we have an article, GameIndustry.biz, and this is unfortunately phrased. Unity targets kids, comma, educators in Unity Playground. New tool offers an introduction to creating 2D games, a simplified version of the Unity interface. This might be very good for moving kids towards a programming language that actually that's closer to it. But as I scroll down in this article, it says Unity says Playground, quote, removes the need to code, which you really can't do that. You need to teach coding as early as possible by letting users mix and match more than 30 scripts to handle the behavior of in-game elements, like creating and destroying objects, movements, jumping, following a target, defining win conditions, and more. Let's see, Unity Playground can be downloaded for free from the Unity Asset Store. I'll look at this a little bit more, but honestly it doesn't feel like that this is a scenario where this actually is a smart move. I think you really just have to throw the kids in heads first and have good education material around using the standard programming interfaces. Alright. So this guy's gonna heal every time he does damage. So we wanna do this, then do this, and then do that. Start up again.
I hunt alone.
There we go, we've got our victories. So this is gonna be funny. I'm gonna somehow get all of the data quests done. Like, all I need to do is play Paladin cards now. Let's just double check to make sure we've done the Tavern Brawl, because that's in the... Oh, wow. I didn't get this done. Oops. Almost screwed up there. I must have fallen asleep and forgotten that I hadn't done it. I'm gonna have to go back and double check to make sure I did the others, but I'm fairly certain I did. Next we have a game on Steam called King Rabbit. It's a free-to-play early access game. It doesn't look like it's particularly great. It looks like it's just a block pushing puzzle game.
I will fight with honor.
It looks a little too simplistic to be interesting, and since it's free to play anyways, there's not really anything that I elsewise have to say about it. TechRaptor has an article, Far Cry 5 sequel New Dawn will have no DLC, and you will team up with Joseph Seed, which I believe is the bad guy in Far Cry 5. I don't really see it as particularly surprising that Far Cry New Dawn would not have any DLC, considering how Far Cry 5 New Dawn is the DLC, and they are just doing this as its own separate standalone game, which is the same thing that they did with Far Cry 3 Blood Dragon. Like, spell you cost 0. I don't really see a reason to play that right now.
Reporting for duty.
Yeah, I don't see that as too much to be talked about, frankly, but I wouldn't be surprised actually if it gets underreported too. Can we do this. Yeah.
Let me
Do that. And let's move on. Next we have a game on Steam called Achievement Collector Dog, which is a piece of junk game, obviously, just by the name. It's just random assets with a random background. A game-like object, as I call it. 99 cents. Designed to give you 100 Steam achievements. Not like 100 Steam achievements even means anything. If you want to get 100% achievement completion, it would be easier to give a smaller number of achievements. But apparently, people forget about that. Let's see, do we want to freeze this guy?
Gladly.
The battle!
Sure, why not? Let's just freeze him. Just to irritate him. So, Achievement Collector Dog is 99 cents, no discount. Of course, it's not making it to the follow list. And to follow up that, we have Achievement Collector Zombie, which is just literally the same game with different visual assets put on it. 99 cents and only one achievement this time, so I guess they're learning. Again though, why is this not flagged? Like, Steam could do some basic curation and just look and say to itself, hey, if this game has achievement in its name, we should give it a bit of a second look before it gets approved on Steam Direct. But it doesn't seem like that happens. Next we have a game called Time to Fight, which is a hideous looking garbage game. Like, I'm not sure what the point of this one is yet. 10% off for $3.59 with no achievements, so this is just a bad game for a bad game's sake, apparently. And nothing interesting there. And I don't want to get into a rant about this. The story has been developing, certainly, and we're gonna have to dive into this a little bit, though. I need to just win this tavern brawl and then I'll do it. TechRaptor has an article, Honey Pop 2 censored on Steam by developer due to Valve's inconsistent policies. And then I'm seeing a screenshot where the bottom half of a picture is blurred, so you still can see cleavage, it's just a little bit pixely. The developer of the Match 3 dating game Hybrid announced that he'll launch Honey Pop 2 censored version on Steam due to Valve's inconsistent policy. This news comes after a number of games have recently had issues of getting published on the Steam store despite Valve's changes to the censorship policy after a number of games found themselves facing the threat removal last year. Honey Pot, which is the company that makes Honey Pop, I honestly don't think they were in danger of being censored. This is almost a political move more than anything else.
Reporting for duty.
I feel empty inside.
Right. Let's see. Honeypot posted a series of 3 tweets to explain that they'll launch Honey Pop 2 censored. Honey Pop 1 was also censored on Steam though, so it was just a patch, a 0-byte long text file you had to make to uncensor it. Valve has stated they would only refuse games to publish that are quote illegal or straight up trolling. A nebulous definition to be sure, but certainly excluding lewd content. However, some developers have reported issues of getting published on Steam after this policy change. Developers aside from Honeypot have highlighted their concerns. As a result of these seemingly inconsistent policies, Honeypot has launched Honey Pop 2 censored on Steam. Honeypot also cheekily states that there's sure a third party will create a censorship patch and put it online, describing the situation as some quote, some shady poop going down in a subsequent tweet. Yeah, and this is the problem with Valve right now, is that they certainly are losing credibility for their inconsistent handling of their rules. Let's go ahead and play that too. The developer laments the situation, but nonetheless credits Valve for giving them somewhere to publish their game at all. As previously stated, a third party will likely make an uncensorship patch for the game to get around this silliness. That aside, Honey Pop 2 will also likely launch on other stores such as Nutaku, Manga Gamer, and the like, where it's expected to be released fully uncensored. Disclosure, TechRaptor has an affiliate partnership with some of these storefronts. Steam has long been the go-to place for getting games, and it seems like things were turning a corner for adult games. Unfortunately, it appears Valve does not have confidence of quite a few adult gaming devs. Honey Pop 2 is expected to launch somewhere in 2019. So this is kind of a political move more than anything. As far as I've been able to figure, and this really is just at most educated guesses, the scenario is only Japanese games where characters are in high school or college or middle school Japanese outfits are getting rejected. Or except for one, I guess one had to kids in like elementary school outfits, but that one was kind of a unique oddity in itself. So there's just like inconsistency there, but it seems like if you're not a Japanese developer, you can still get away with everything you could get away with before. It seems like if you're a Japanese developer and you bend over backwards to say this is not set in anything other than an academy or college, you can still mostly get away with everything you did before. And I'm just colloquially using the phrase get away with what you could get away with before. I'm not implying any condemnation in that.
Reporting for duty.
But also that this is kind of a story that's not a story, to be fair. Like, it would be a real story if Honey Pop 2 was submitted and then not allowed on Steam. That's when it actually becomes news. And the other part about Honey Pop 2 is it probably is already going to get banned from being streamed on Twitch, because Twitch is weird about what they ban and what they don't. It'll be interesting to see if Twitch explicitly bans Honey Pop 2 or just allows it to stay as it is. So it would be banned because it's violating some standing rule, not because it was explicitly banned. Honey Pop 1 was explicitly banned, so even if you were playing the censored version of it, you still couldn't play it on Twitch, and allegedly. I don't think they really care anymore. Now it's not popular. Gamatsu has an article. Citus Alpha launches in April in the West. It will launch for the Switch in the West on April, both in physical and digital editions. It was previously dated for April 25th in Japan. It's... what kind of game is this? A rhythm game. Citus, C-Y-T-U-S Alpha. I think I heard somebody talking about this as a rhythm game, and that they may have liked it. Being a rhythm game though, I'm not sure if I'd ever actually play it. And this trailer is probably just playing music that I don't hear, so it's not really showing me anything as far as an actual visual gameplay element.
Reporting for duty.
Job's done.
Next we have a game on Steam called Invaders from Dimension X, which looks like it's a top-down strategy game, and maybe it's based on a board game. The problem, of course, with any game based on a board game is I would have to have some nostalgia or reason to want to play it, and I don't. I've never heard of this game, and it doesn't particularly look too interesting. Yeah, I'm not seeing anything visually interesting there. It's $13.59 discounted. English only, which an English only game based on a board game is slightly surprising, because I think board games would try to have easier translations and approach as wide of an audience as possible. Okay.
Reporting for duty.
Well,
To battle.
alright. I guess I'm gonna lose here. Next week, Gematsu has an article. Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Trilogy for console and PC. Phoenix Wright and Miles Edgeworth screenshots. I think Miles Edgeworth was like a continuation of the Phoenix Wright series. So yeah, I didn't dream that up. It coming out February 21st in Japan. So that includes Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney, Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Justice for All, and Phoenix Wright Ace Attorney Trials and Tribulations. It's due for consoles February 24th and PC this spring in Japan, and for all platforms in early 2019 in North America and Europe. Interesting to say all platforms. That's committing to quite a lot there. Let's see. I can't do any of this anyways. So yeah, that's cool. I've probably been waiting for as long as the Phoenix Wright series has been out to want to play it. I think it was a DS Game Boy game originally, and I had already stopped playing Game Boy DS games at that point. But I would want to play them. Maybe some slight questions about how good the translation is, but that's kind of the only thing that I'd be worried about. Otherwise, I'm totally hyped for that. and that is an example I would like to see of a continued development of a continued pattern of Japanese developers bringing their games over to the West. Next we have a game on Steam called Klaus, K-L-A-U-S, which looks like it's a Super Meat Boy platformer, which is, again, just not the kind of games I like to play, so this might be good. It's $12.74, so it's asking a lot, certainly, but it says it's ESRB 10 plus, so I don't believe that to be true. Yeah. Even if this is good, it's just not for me, so it's not going to the fall list. Let's see. TechRaptor has an article. Ace Combat 7 hits biggest UK launch ever. Mario tops the charts. I think we already talked about this. For the week ending July 19th, the top 10 sellers would be... Like, if I win this, that would be ridiculous. I don't think I am. Top 10 for that week was New Super Mario Bros. U, Ace Combat 7, Skies Unknown, Red Dead Redemption 2, Call of Duty Black Ops, FIFA 19, Smash Bros. Ultimate, Mario Kart 8, GTA 5, Crash Bandicoot Insane Trilogy, and Spyro Reignited Trilogy. Crash Bandicoot and Spyro for the UK is selling a little bit better. I imagine starting next week we'll start hearing a lot more people selling, saying great things about the what am I trying to say? Resident Evil 2 Remake. Yeah, the Resident Evil 2 Remake I think people will be hyping up quite a lot. Alright, let me check this next game and just make sure that there's nothing too offensive here. Alright. What is he doing?
Reporting for duty.
Next we have a game on Steam called Endless Jade Sea Midori no Umi. So I don't know what Midori means, but I guess it would be Endless Jade because of Umi is sea and No is the sea. And this is it says it's an RPG, but I would assume that it was a visual novel that's tagged with both nudity and sexual content. That's why I wanted to look at it. And here we can see some young kid characters being taken care of with an older anime character. And of course with the anime style, this is an anime 34-year-old pretty much, and this is an anime 8-year-old. They don't seem to get any older looking. I'm just guessing the ages, certainly. Let's see, $1.19 is actually really cheap for this. Full Japanese and then interface and subtitles.
I must move quickly.
They say it's an RPG, so maybe it's a relationship RPG of some sort? Like, that's kind of the only thing I could think.
The battle reporting for duty.
Yeah, is that maybe it's in that one way a RPG. But let me see if I can fast forward through this trailer and see some actual gameplay. I'd still very much say that this is a it still feels very much like a visual novel. I see nothing here that says RPG. But that is also kind of a good example of that was allowed on Steam, so I think Steam may have fixed its issues, its weirdness. Let me look at this next game because this game is also tagged with nudity. Are we safe? Interesting. So the exact next game we have here is called Lucky of Love, which seems like it's a simplistic game where you're just spinning a wheel, where you're trying to win or you're trying to lose, or you're probably trying to avoid the bombs and win. And with every win, these background images potentially maybe lose some clothing. But this is pretty good quality background images, assuming it's licensed. And this one says bomb, so I guess that probably ends your streak at that point. Like, these aren't bad, though. Maybe you're actually looking for the bomb to blow off their clothes. 79 cents, 30 achievements. This probably still is a low effort game, but I'm willing to put it on the wish list. Let's come over here and roll this. And I'm just noticed that the more like this reference seems like it is getting better at recommending similar games, interestingly enough. So I'm gonna put Lucky in Love on the fall list just to see what the reviews say of it.
Well met. Reporting for duty.
And next on Steam we have something called White Tares, WHITAERs, Taers, like it's a 20-minute-long visual novel story. I don't know how you're supposed to pronounce that. Doesn't look terrible, but I imagine this is a Chinese game. 79 cents, yes, simplified Chinese only. Yeah, I have no idea if this is just a terrible translation or if this means something in Chinese. It sounds vaguely offensive in English.
Reporting for duty.
Job done.
Chinese visual novels are getting fancier, but they even itself admitted it was only 20 minutes long, so they are hours upon hours, hundreds of hours away from the level of content that gets made compared to a Japanese visual novel. Overkill, gain +5 attack. Can I do anything? Expel. Cast twice. I can't spell. Let's do that.
To battle! To battle!
Next we have a game on Steam called Once 10, which is another visual novel. I kind of like this art style, although this is pretty inconsistent. If the entire game was this, it would take some adjustment, but a pencil on brown paper is an interesting idea. But once you start putting in that paler skin tone, it doesn't quite work. Unfortunately, again, this is probably a Chinese game. It's free, English language not supported, and it's probably a really short experience again.
Someone call for the doctor.
TechRaptor has an article. Let's see, what do I need to do? Attacks and kills something. I won't be doing a lot of that. Destroy this and gain 8 armor. I'll do that. And we'll do this.
Reporting for duty.
Kill that. And kill that.
The battle! The battle!
I don't want to play anything else. TechRaptor has an article. Monte Cook Games Numeria comes to the Humble Bundle. So apparently this is a book bundle. So that's an RPG game books. Alright, that explains why I've never heard of Monte Cook Games or Numeria. Although I've heard of Tides of Numeria, so that probably is a video game version of the tabletop game. Everything's more expensive. Okay, eat a minion in your deck and gain its stats. Death rattle, add it to your hand. The only minion it would gain would be a 1/1.
I don't have enough mana.
Just gonna play this taunt, I guess.
The battle! The battle! The battle!
Let the dark in.
There you go. Next we have a game on Steam called Party Poppers, which is a swing around, like, fight each other style game. Doesn't look particularly interesting. Although the concept of having to swing around and there being very few platforms is slightly different. $9.99 is way too expensive, and it's not enough. I think it's still mostly a local multiplayer game. Yeah, no single player element at all.
Welcome to the grand tournament, champion.
The battle! The battle!
We just have a little bit more to go. Gamatsu has an article. Last Labyrinth's second teaser trailer is now available. This virtual reality adventure game is due out in spring. With this second teaser trailer, which I've already watched, it seems like it's a VR game where you're handcuffed to a wheelchair and you can wheel yourself from room to room in this escape the room style game. But otherwise, all of your actions are focused around
Back to your homes.
the concept of telling this green-haired, slightly anime-style girl with red ribbons on her wrists what to do. So you tell her how to solve the puzzles and she follows it. There have been a few games in that same genre in previous decades where you sometimes it was voice recognition too, but I don't know if this is going to be a better, easier way to give direct instructions. I would hope it was, so it's more consistent. And I'm still not 100% sure if this turns that into an interesting game. I mean, they're just kind of putting a spin on the fact that it's a sit-down VR game, so they make you, in story, be stuck to a wheelchair and sitting down in VR. And then, but there's probably better ways that you could have addressed that simply by, well, the first thing is just don't make it a sit-down VR game. Either make it not a VR game in the first place, or make it a walk-around room sense VR game. And I guess maybe they couldn't program to that, so they did the best they could do. Alright. How do we want to do this? We need to get rid of some stuff. Oh, I can just win, so let's just win. I almost made a mistake there. Gamatsu has an article. Nightcry for the PS Vita launches January 31st. Nightcry is like a spiritual successor, I guess, to the Clock Tower series, and it launched on PC March 2016. So releasing it on the Vita though seems like a very bad move for 2019, but maybe it was already in development. There we go, so we got that done. And disenchant all of those. Get some more dust. And I'm gonna have to play the Paladin cards off screen. Let's see, there's 3 more pages of news. Gamatsu has an article, Daito Shokan no Hitsujikai Library Party, comma, Nor to Ojo to Noren Nico Heart HD version, comma, Shinso Noise and Sokeno PS4 demos are now available in Japan. Wow, that's a long title. So a quartet of visual novels are now have demos available in Japan. I should have read that whole title before I started trying to pronounce all of those. And I've got at least one of my Facebook pages working again, so apologies. It's been months and months and I just don't look at the Facebook ever, so I didn't even recognize that it wasn't posting anymore. But I'll continue to work on that. TechRaptor has an article, American Ninja Warrior coming to a console near you, which is interesting because there was something like American Ninja Warrior games that had already come out years and years ago. I guess now that this is just going to be the official license, and yeah, I'm hoping it's a good game. It seems it's being made by Game Mill Entertainment, people behind like Nickelodeon Kart Racers, Cartoon Network Battle Crashers, video games, Are You Smarter Than the 5th Grade? So it probably isn't going to be the greatest of games, honestly. And let's see, In Exile Entertainment is looking for an associate producer in New Orleans, Los Angeles, or Louisiana? Yeah, Louisiana, LA. And then that takes us to the Humble Bundle store, and with the exception of the book bundle that's new, the newest thing is still the caffeine bundle, which I have no interest in. And then there's 18 new tweets on Twitter, which I seriously doubt at the end of this late point on a Friday there's anything new to talk about or any groundbreaking news. Yeah. Again, I have to apologize for starting so late and just oversleeping. This is insomnia and how it goes. But either I'll stay up tonight and continue playing Grow Up and finishing that, or I'll maybe fall asleep and figure out a way to wake up at proper times. Metro Exodus PC specs revealed requires a RTX 2080 Ti for the extreme setting. Okay. Yeah. Yep. And at this point, that's all of the news. So that's it for the stream. We got most of the things done. Just need to play Paladin cards. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos because that helps me with YouTube, tells them my videos are worth watching. If you want to friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below. And if you want to support me even further, there's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.